Badger, how are you doing? See you. And then Chris Aldrete, I think I've got that right. Thank you guys for being here. And Ms. Susie Puckett, you would call the roll.
Laney Briggs.
Thank you.
I sure say he was supposed to have zoomed.
Got to get my audio.
Okay, cool.
I know y'all forgot who I am.
Michael Gruffino,
Here.
Sarah Hawkins.
Here.
Brian Hester,
Here.
Wally Loveless,
Here.
Julie Matthews,
Here.
Scott McKinnon,
Here.
Jim Pender, Sarah Stevens,
Here.
Daniel Storley.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion to adopt the meeting agenda.
Jim Pender's absence.
Oh, yes. So we need to approve or not approve Jim Pender's absence from the meeting today. That motion.
I'll make a motion that it's unexcused.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unexcused. Okay. Now, adopt the meeting agenda. All in favor? Approval of the board minutes from March. Motion to approve those. All in favor?
Aye.
On the new business, and we'll get that to Ms. Diane.
Okay, we have a background check waiver request this morning. Real quickly, it's case 25-002. Back in 2010, June 22nd of 2010, we have an applicant for a registered apprentice appraiser credential. He was convicted of domestic battery 3rd degree. It was a misdemeanor. He was given 9 months probation, which was suspended. He was 21 years old at the time of conviction. He has submitted letters of recommendation and has provided court documents, although there are limited court documents available in that time period. He subsequently had a conviction within the next 5 years of that conviction, which caused us to be able to look at this, need to look at the 2010 conviction. And it was in July of 2012, he pled guilty to a violation of the Controlled Substance Act and possession of drug paraphernalia. It was a misdemeanor. He was 23 years old at the time of conviction. He had received a suspended sentence based on the condition of good behavior and a clean record. He did everything they asked him to do. The circumstances surrounding the incident that we're talking about today was that he and a girlfriend had a minor issue, and it turned into more than it probably was meant to. But he has done everything. He has been clean up until when we ran his last background check. He has been clean since 2012.
Make a motion that we grant the waiver. All in favor?
That's you or me. I get lost at up front. Okay, thank you. So we will run an up-to-date background check that we will grant as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And move on to the committee reports and the education committee. Ms. Sarah Stevens.
Okay, and thank you to Sarah for getting all the information to me. We had a lot this time, and thank you too for going back and forth with some of these people who forget to include the things they need to include for us to be able to say yes or no. So I appreciate you doing that. Let's start with the different groups, and we'll start with the American Society of Farm Managers and Appraisers. They're asking for our approval for classes, cost approach applications, going concern, business, valve, and agricultural operations, appraising ag facility, equine seminar, and introduction to commercial greenhouse appraisal. And concern in business now in agricultural operations. That one, I had to go back and look at a couple of times simply because we wanted to be sure that what we were doing was an appraisal oriented course and not a business style course. And talked with Diana about it, and I think Sarah wrote back and asked a couple of questions. Anyway, I'm fine with that, and I'd like a motion for us to approve and adopt all four that the Society of Farm Managers is asking for credit for.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Appraisal Institute. Appraisal Institute submitted 5 classes for us to take a look at. As you know, the URAR form has come out with some revisions, the drop-down menu and some improvements. And they are into trying to get people involved and educated regarding that. Not only were we asked to take a look at the class and the outline, but they also listed some instructors that they were asking for our approval that had not been approved for by this board. So we had URAR, sport adjustments, along with that in the URAR, residential upzoning, new challenges and opportunities for the residential appraiser, essentials of effective communication, and practical application. One of the things that I think that we might note is that the Appraisal Institute has shortened the time that they're asking for approval on these classes. And instead of the usual 7 hours or 14 hours on a couple of these, they've gone 4 into 3. And so that's interesting in that they're shortening the time that the classroom is in contact with the student. But if you'll notice, if you put A and B together, which are both URAR form informational seminars, then you get your 7 hours. So I think probably what they intend to do is half days on those and come up with 7. So I'm asking for your approval on those, and like that, ask for a motion, please.
Make a motion that we approve the 5 AI classes.
Any discussion?
Second that.
All right. And motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next is the e-learning appraisal, appraiser e-learning. And they submitted 5, understanding the role of collateral underwriter, staying out of the courtroom, unless you're paid to be there. They also are asking for credit for their Val Expo and then advanced solar panel evaluation for appraisals. I want to note that the staying out of the courtroom unless you've been paid to be there, the instructor is Pete Christensen, and he formerly was with the liability insurance people. He's an attorney and has done a nice job of representing appraisers and imparting information about appraisers and appraisals and the implication for preparing a report that is sufficient for staying out of court. And on the Val Expos, that 1 and that 2, they were actually asking for 8 hours, but that included lunch. And so we said, okay, we'll give you 7. So that's why 7 hours is because they were asking, we don't get credit for lunch. So that said, I would ask for your approval on this 5, and I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Is that in Vegas?
Yes.
So moved.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? RWA is asking for credit for 2025 Space City Shuttle. And I'm recommending that we not allow credit for that. This particular class focuses with the relocation, and it is very Texas centric. And it is about how the relocation of certain businesses occurred in this particular project. I just didn't feel like there was enough appraisal information. In fact, I didn't see any appraisal information in the material that they sent. So I would say that we not approve it. That's my recommendation. I'd like a motion to support that.
I make a motion that we do not approve the National Road and Highway Association license.
Any discussion? I'll just, as a note, tell you that I did ask Diana about this. We discussed it at length. And I just felt like that we approved things for our WA in the past, but this one just did not meet the criteria for appraisal. So I felt like it was worthy of that. All in favor? Any opposed? And the next one is the OREP Education Network. We have one class, basic market analysis, key credible results, and that's Jason Turner. Recommend that we approve. Ask for the motion to do.
So moved.
A second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have several appraiser instructor approvals. These are people that we have not approved in the past. First one is from the Society of Farm Managers and Appraisers. And just to let you know, when they ask for this approval, they send in their CV. And that includes things they've taught, classes they've attended, etc. And approvals that they may have. For example, the Appraisal Institute has an instructor approval process, farm managers also. So they put that material in, and all of that is in place for Mr. Pruitt. And so I would ask that we approve him as an instructor. Motion.
Second.
All right, in discussion. And the next one is a lengthy list of people from the Appraisal Institute. And these were the people that they have added to this new URAR class. I think it's going to be well received and probably in a lot of jurisdictions. And there's 13 people that they are asking for that approval. Again, each one of them has submitted all the information. And there's some people here who've taught a long time, who've been involved with the Appraisal Institute and its education. And so I would recommend that. And they're asking for Rick Carlisle and Mark Smelser. So let's just do them A and B all together from the Appraisal Institute. So we can have a motion.
Make a motion that we approve all the names of A and B.
All right,
Second that.
any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Over on the home inspector, continuing ed, we have one from the ASHI group. Code is not a four-letter word, asking 4 hours of CE. And the instructors, Bruce Barker. Again, I reviewed this, Diana and I talked back and forth about it. Our initial thought was this may not be something that's more than just a code class. And we took a second look at it, and I think that they complied with what we need and what our folks could use. So my recommendation would be that we approve code as number 4 of the work.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And finally, a different, an additional ASHI instructor Eli Morgan. And this is kind of a retroactive type thing. He did the class in March of 2025. And it's an in-person class, the original instructor is unavailable. So we're being asked to approve it again without the information. In my opinion, so kind of, we kind of down here.
Yes, ma'am, Sarah was at the meeting, did a fine job with the
Okay.
class. It was a little bit of a last minute thing, and they can ask me if they can make these change, and I let them make the change, so I need you guys to ratify it.
All right, all of, go ahead and motion to. All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? And I think that takes care of us, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Sarah, I'd like to say, this is a tremendous amount of work and effort and research, and I thank you for doing all that. That's a lot of work and makes our lives a lot easier.
Well, I will tell you that Sarah and Susie and Diana are all complicit. I wouldn't be able to do it without them. It's interesting to me, and I would enjoy that part of it. But again, we didn't have the staff people that we had. I couldn't do it. No,
Well, nonetheless, thank you for taking the lead.
thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You want to mention the issue you ran into?
I'm gonna do that in my report. I've got a lengthy report today.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Sarah. And, let's see, financial.
So the financial report balances as of May 12th, 2025 is $2,206,999.77. I recommend that we make a motion to accept this budget.
So,
I got a question. It's probably a Diana question, but looking back on February 28th, why did we drop $82,000?
I noticed that. I knew somebody was gonna ask that question, so I had an answer. It was, well, it looked odd to me as well. We dropped that much because we had to make our payment for the electronic licensing platform. That was many thousands of dollars, and probably that was at least 30 of that. 30,000 of it, and then we got hit with the way that we paid quite a lot for rent here, and we got hit with some rent. We're paying roughly $3,000 a month in rent. So we got hit with some rent, some extra rent, and
so
then
did they
salaries.
increase our rent on?
They have not increased our rent. They will July 1 with the new fiscal year that starts. They'll increase our rent. It just was the way that a lot of expenses hit us in this last time period.
But they were expensive.
Copier machine.
Copier machine, things. And it was, yes, there's a lot of expenses that go on around here that I will watch it because we don't want it to drop down, or what the legislature wants us to have is a 3-year supply of money. So as long as we're maintaining a 3-year supply, which we are, and it stays pretty steady, and we're in renewals right now, so it'll come back up again. And then another bill will be due, and then it'll go back down.
Put that on top of it. I'm trying to figure it out. Okay.
I gotta watch them like a hawk.
All in favor? So moved.
To the staff reports, the investigator report, Ms. Diana.
Okay, on the 16th, on the 14th, which is 2 days ago, we met and had a short meeting and looked at 8 cases for jurisdiction. They're all listed on your list, on cases 25-11-48 through 25-11-53. The allegations are violations of use code, and we have jurisdiction. On cases 1154 and 1155, the allegations were errors and omissions, and we did not have jurisdiction. Sarah Stevens and Scott McKinnon looked at those reports or those cases. And if you're gonna see, you want to do that one? I forgot mine. How do we do that? Go ahead and ratify it, if you want to do both at the end.
Let's go ahead and ratify this next.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Now to the home inspectors.
Okay, on the home inspectors, we met on May the 2nd. Board member Michael Rufino was there. It was myself, Aaron Lowry was with us, and Susie was in with us as well. And this is a little bit different type of report, and we're going to move both inspector reports this way moving forward. But I wanted to see how you guys liked it today. At first, we looked at 5 for jurisdiction. And I know that you can read, so we'll just go through them quickly, but case 25-0087, the allegations were understating needed repairs. The recommendation is that the board has jurisdiction. The home inspector's report did not indicate that the stone veneer exterior had failed, causing significant water damage to the home. On the next one, and I'll give you guys a chance to read, that on 25-0088, the allegations were that the home inspector did not report the condition of the HVAC. In that instance, we concluded that the board does not have jurisdiction. You can read there that in the report, the home inspector stated that the life expectancy of a typical air conditioner is 10 to 15 years. The unit appears to have exceeded its life expectancy. Recommend an evaluation for servicing, cleaning, and charging by a licensed technician. The recommendation of the home inspector was to contact a qualified professional. On case 25-0089, the allegations were plumbing and roofing issues. Again, we concluded the board does not have jurisdiction. You can look, the report indicated in the roofing section that there was a sloped roofing which was metal, possible evidence of leaks. Recommend a qualified contractor to further evaluate and make repairs prior to closing. So that was outlined within the report. On case 25-0090, the allegations were that they did not report foundation issues. This one is a little bit different. The home inspector is not currently registered by the board. He is inactive. Apparently, he's moved to Florida and is no longer working in real estate. Should he decide to reinstate his registration, we'll need to resolve the complaint. He prepared the report prior to the issuance of his registration, and he was the loan officer as well as the home inspector. And it appears that his spouse was the real estate agent handling the transaction. So it'll be interesting should he decide to want to reinstate.
How many more conflicts did you have?
That was a good deal for that, because building too, I mean,
The report that he turned in literally said sample across the back in on each page. He was actually using software that was sample.
To what end? I mean, just trying to close the deal? Yes. I can't imagine a loan officer actually wanting to get in a house and crawl around.
Okay, case 25-0091, it was kind of the polar opposite of that complaint. The allegations were code of ethics and standards of practice violations. We concluded that the board does have jurisdiction. The complaint included allegations, extensive documentation, including photos of numerous potential violations of both the standards of practice and the code of ethics. It was a well laid out complaint. We had several cases now. We're going to move on to the probable cause. We looked at case 22-0033, which has kind of been around for a minute. The allegations were understated repairs and spouse is employed by the real estate firm. Our recommendation, after a lengthy discussion and review of the standards of practice and code of ethics, is to dismiss with caution. Upon review of reports prepared approximately 7 weeks apart, the report in question appears to meet the minimum requirements of home inspector standards. The committee does recommend that the home inspector complete a report writing class, and additional comments would be a best practice.
Say again, I didn't hear that last part.
The committee does recommend the home inspector complete a report writing class. Additional comments would be a best practice, although the spouse of the home inspector is employed by the real estate firm, she's a sales agent, and does not appear that neither the home inspector nor his spouse financially benefited from the sale of the subject of the report. We also have an issue here, similar to before, the home inspector is not currently registered with the board. On case 240074, the allegations were plumbing issues. The recommendation is to dismiss. The subject has cast iron pipes, which are notated in the report. In reviewing the home inspector's report, including photos provided, there's no evidence that the pipes were showing evidence of issues at the time of inspection. The committee recommends that the home inspector include a comment in its reports indicating cast iron pipes are prone to failure. Case 240079, numerous issues were discovered that are not explained in the report. Our recommendation is that the home inspector be offered a consent agreement. Upon reviewing of the report, there are several instances of the home inspector not identifying the current condition of the components or indicating the remaining life. The board recently required the home inspector to complete additional education. The consent agreement requires that the home inspector be placed on a 6-month probation with a monthly log. The board will choose reports each month for review and comment. On 240080, the allegations are structural, electrical, environmental issues. The recommendation is to dismiss. The issues noted in the complaint are identified in the report, or the reasons they were unable to be inspected is addressed in the report. The report appears to meet the minimum requirements of the standards. On case 0081, the allegations for plumbing, HVAC, and electrical issues. The recommendation is to dismiss. You can see there that the water was not working at the time when the home inspector was unable to check the leaks. And the HVAC section, he identified the fact that the temperature was below 65 and he was unable to test the system. There are several additional comments concerning the inability to inspect the crawl space due to water leaks or burst pipes. The report appears to meet the minimum requirements of the standards of practice. And on case 250083, there were plumbing and HVAC issues are the allegations. The recommendation is to dismiss. The report and response are well documented with photos, comments, and explanations. The report appears to meet the minimum requirements of the standards of practice. And then the last thing, on April the 29th of 25, we suspended our first home inspector for failure to provide us a current certificate of insurance. My recommendation is, well, he is currently suspended as per the board's rules, statutes, and rules. The respondent was properly notified and given 30 days in which to appeal the suspension. A consent agreement requiring the payment of a $250 civil penalty, which this board had approved. The respondent is currently suspended on the board's website. And that is my report on the home inspector complaint. Sorry.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
I like this format. Are we supposed to respond?
Yes, I want to know if you like this format or
very
not.
much.
Yes.
Very much.
I have a quick question about the insurance.
Uh-huh.
So we have him suspended. Is there any way for us to verify whether or not he's inspecting why he's suspended?
No, I have no way unless someone turns him in for, that he is inspecting without a valid license. That's the only way I would have to know.
Well, is there any way to contact the users, home inspectors, to alert them to the fact that we have people who are suspended because of this?
It's available on our website.
Okay, so it's up to them.
Yes,
330033.
Okay.
So is he out of the inspection business since he's not registered? Yeah.
He's not doing home inspection at the present time. I have no idea what he's doing,
Okay, all right.
but
So the other question is, in the real estate contract, we have to specify in public information whether or not we're related to the buyer or the seller, you know, disclose that. In this situation, the last 20 inspections he did, 16 of them were with the company where his wife was employed. And the problem was he missed some obvious things on the first sale when he was used. And then when she resold it, another inspector inspected it, caught all those things. And so is there some type of disclosure that an inspector has or should make if he's doing work for a company that his wife works for, even though she didn't gain from it? If an inspector misses some stuff, then that agent may gain a commission when maybe there shouldn't have been one. And so as far as just standard practice, I haven't reviewed that, but certainly, you know, I've got to state if I'm a buyer or seller's agent, or even in our office, it's not me.
I would like to hear, but I would, gosh, it seems like a code of ethics issue.
So from a professional standpoint, and Aaron, you can probably vouch for this, if you're looking for a loophole or a gray area, if you search hard enough, you can probably find it. But being licensed in the state of Arkansas, you're being called to a higher standard.
Yeah.
And so at some point, you just have to kind of trust that people are doing due diligence. And if not, that's why the board's here.
So I think there's some, although it was one question, I think it's two separate questions. So the first question is it, the way that the verbiage is in the code of ethics is if you do not have a financial gain from the sale.
Yeah.
Which means in the line or in the chain of command, if you're the broker, then you have a financial interest in it because you're going to get paid regardless who sells it. But if you're just an agent in the office, you have no financial gain. The only person that does is the broker or the person that's representing. So in several areas, there are inspectors that tend to have more inspections out of certain offices because of relationships that they have with somebody that's in there, whether it's their spouse or just a friend. But there's nothing currently in the code of ethics that says that's wrong. But as a code of ethics within yourself, you kind of say that that's wrong. Does that make sense?
Well, I understand what you're saying. I would think that if I'm doing 80% of my business with the company where my wife works, that needs to be disclosed to the client. Just as far as full disclosure.
Right.
And, you know, I, as an agent, I've got to, when I'm working with the buyer and they're looking at one of my listings, I'm required by the state law to tell them that they're free to use somebody else.
Yep.
And so,
and it's the same thing in the inspection world as well.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to, realtors are not supposed to just refer one inspector.
right.
And so, does that happen? Probably.
Well,
But
percentage of business with that company, I would say probably it is.
exactly. But currently, there's nothing other than financial gain. That's the governance for that.
Well, they do. Here's three guys. We really like the first one.
So, the downside of that is if you put all, as an inspector, if you put all your business in that one office, and that office starts to decline, then your business also declines as well, meaning they don't sell as much. So that's why it's important that you connect with many offices, but we'll just say it out loud, doesn't happen. Probably. Is it hard for us to govern that? Yes.
Yeah.
Unless you're in.
Really you're policing, not governing. And that's what we don't really have a policing arm of. I mean, we don't have agents going out investigating, following.
Doing
home
covert
inspection.
missions.
That's a policing matter, not a governing matter, really, is what we're talking about
The
here.
real issue is just the fact that he's doing so many for the same company.
Yeah, but I mean.
In my view,
My-
is,
Yeah,
Go
I
ahead,
was just gonna say, like, especially if you're in a smaller community and there's two real estate companies, you know, that home inspector is gonna do a
Yeah.
lot. And if his wife is or her husband is a realtor, then, you know, that's gonna happen, but.
So this discussion, it hits, I'm gonna say this and then we can hopefully move on. So this hits really close to home for me. So my father has a foundation repair company. I'm office manager and estimator for that company. And I also have a home inspection LLC, which is me personally. And so Dad's done business in Northeast Arkansas for over 40 years. I've had calls where he has gone and worked on a house maybe 20, 30 years ago, and then I get a call for an inspection on it. I don't always know, you know, back in the old paper trail, you know, sometimes it's kind of hard to back into the banker boxes. But if I get a call on a property for an inspection and I'm aware that that company had worked on it previously, to me, it's not worth muddying in the water. I just tell the buyer, you know, there's a little bit of a conflict of interest. We don't care, it's fine. We'd rather have your knowledge on it. And so I think I even called you at one point in time and I was like, it's just not worth it. You know, the publicity is not worth it. So.
Appearance is just bad.
Well, that's the point. The integrity of the real estate industry is key, and that's what we lost in 08 and 09 when we got all the subprime stuff and false stuff. That's what I'm going to DC in a couple of weeks to deal with. If you have any issues with French Hill, let me know. I'll be visiting with French the rest of our crew here. So to try to maintain local control for appraisers.
So could I ask another question? You know, in the appraisal world, assignments come, if it's for a lending purpose, you're purchasing, come directly from the lending institution. It's not like it used to be, you know, can't dial up, say, I need an appraisal, find it out. Do the assignments that the home inspectors get come from lenders? Is that okay?
No, ma'am, it's strictly the buyer, or the person that hires you. It could be the seller. If they want to have a pre-listing inspection, or if somebody needs a mold or air quality inspection or insert whatever, it's that individual and they own that report. So actually the lender doesn't own the report, the real estate agent doesn't own the report. It only goes to the people that the person that paid for the report has on their list.
The purchaser of the property.
That's correct.
The only exception for that would be in phased inspections.
Yeah, phase inspection.
Where you're doing, you know, multiple inspections, to, you know, process through to meet the lender requirement, or, you know, is the contractor being efficient in their time and their money before the buyer can do another for money off of the loan.
So that's for, something is really prospective.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so y'all do like proposed constructions and construction draw inspections. Okay. I didn't know that.
So we are, I guess, done with the investigator reports. So
We're
we
done with the
ratify-
investigators reports.
Okay. We'll move to the director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, we've got a lot to talk about because we've had a busy month and a half. As you know, the legislature has sine die. They did that on May the 5th. I was really glad to see them go home. There are 3 bills that we need to talk about today that affect this board. The first is Act 949. This was my bill. This was the department's bill. It's a lot of cleanup language. It repeals the seal needed on an appraisal report. We were the next to last state to do that. So it makes some changes for all 3 of our divisions. And Susie is working on a newsletter that we're going to send out to everyone that advises them of the changes that were made in that particular bill.
But
Because
you can still use the seal.
you can still use it. And I recommend you continue to use it. If you've always used it in the past, you don't have to take it off. But you can use it if you want, but you don't have to any longer.
Yeah, I had a client who's specifically said, actually, she asked me to put a gold seal, this is true. A gold seal, you know, report, things are little, they crack the edge. Put a gold seal on my report and then use a press stamp so that it will look more official. I said, well, I think we're okay. It's the kind of thing that, I think people are used to the seal, we can still use them. And Susie, in your newsletter, I mean, my suggestion would be to say, go ahead and use them. It would be nice. I think that sets you apart a little bit. There's no problem with it, right, Don?
There's no problem with it.
You have to use a gold seal, but you know.
It doesn't have a requirement of being gold.
Right.
Okay, the second act is Act 974, and this one was concerning the law about, for home inspectors, concerning the insurance requirements for licensed home inspectors. It requires, and it's really short, I'll read it to you. It says a home inspector is required to carry a professional liability insurance policy or an errors on omissions insurance policy approved by the state insurance department for home inspections performed by the home inspector. So it struck the general liability insurance requirement. I did speak with Jimmy Harris, who is a deputy commissioner with the insurance department, and he has given me in writing a note that says that professional liability insurance is the same thing as errors and omissions.
Okay.
He said they are two words for the same exact policy. We also discussed, they don't want to see every policy. The way I envision this working is they'll send in the same certificate of insurance that they've always sent in for their general liability. It'll look the same. It no longer has to have the general liability on there. It's going to have the professional liability or E&O insurance. Now, what he and I talked about were, he said it's going to have to be a company that is admitted to the state to sell this type of insurance. And he said that 99.9% of the time, if they've given me a certificate of insurance and that's signed by an authorized user or signer, that it will be fine. But they are available to answer any questions and confirm that a policy is, that it is a approved provider. So what I'm thinking is we'll still just ask for the certificates of insurance for it, and then perhaps audit at 10% just to make sure that there are companies, and we're going to see what he and I discussed was if we see a company that's from out of state that is a name we've never heard of before, it's an online only company, just to give them, contact them, email them, and they'll confirm whether or not it's an approved provider. I'm going to put the responsibility on the home inspector. I'm going to say you need to ask your agent, make sure that they're licensed to do business in the state of Arkansas. But we need to check that on. Now, if it's the big carriers, if it's your State Farm and all those, it's probably not going to be a problem. That we will check, we'll audit to make sure that we're using the appropriate providers. The law will go into effect that whenever this one did not have an emergency clause or a date, so it'll go into effect whenever all the laws go into effect. Aaron, do you know when that's going to be yet?
90 days after
Signing
that
off.
ended, so it's
August,
beginning of August.
Beginning of August. Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, and please do. But my thought is, since that's what the law says now, they need to have this policy in effect by that date.
That's correct.
Okay.
Is this a solution looking for a problem?
Yes. Yes, it was.
Well said.
Huh?
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said.
I had to think that through. Which Brighton ran this?
It's public record, so it is
Oh, what, Hester?
Representative Barnett and Senator Murdoch. And I do not know where it came from. Even the insurance department, they have no idea where it came from. They saw it when it was filed the same as we did.
You think this will be more expensive than the insurance that they currently have?
100%. I think I currently have one, and I'm sure this was Diane, I currently have one inspector that I've just brought on board, and he checked into it, E&O insurance. cheap, but mine's not that high, but I've carried it a lot longer. So it's an expensive insurance.
All I hear is the price of inspections going
No,
up. It's got to.
if you're a manufacturer, I mean,
Have your expenses, and then do something else.
And the third act I wanted to mention makes changes, it's Act 505, makes changes to FOIA. This one was run by a whole group of legislators. It makes some changes, and Laney is an example today. If a board member, not an individual or the public or my staff, but if a board member attends a meeting by Zoom, you have to remain on the screen through the whole meeting. We have to be able to see, it's to confirm who makes the votes and motions and different things, but the board member has to be in line of sight, I guess, is another way of putting it, for the entire board meeting. It also goes on to say that board members do not receive a mileage or a stipend. Wait, yes. Or if you attend by Zoom, you don't get paid.
That's
Okay.
outrageous.
Yes, you
I've
don't get.
never asked for mileage or stipend since I've been on the board, whether I've been there or not.
I know, but
If your mileage is zero, you can still turn it in, right?
I thought it was kind of funny anyway, but, and then there's a lot more about the draft agenda has to be on our website 10 days in advance, and it memorializes a lot of things about polling, which we do not do and never have and never will. But, so it's all good. There's a little bit about executive sessions in there as well, but we will make the changes. That will go into effect shortly after our next board meeting. The next thing I wanted to talk about is something near and dear to my heart, and I want this board to realize how hard we all worked, because we all worked very hard to make it happen. But we did receive our good rating from the ASC on both our appraiser and AMC programs. And we're striving for the excellent for the next time, that I am so grateful to every one of you and your help, and everybody that helped make this happen, because it is phenomenal. But I checked the day after I got my letter, we were back on the website, on the ASC website as a good.
That bothers. Good.
What do we have to do to get that excellent?
Do better. Get our complaints and keep them caught up, and not make any, we're spending more time going through education now than we were, and we're just doing, everything is good. One of the things we're going to do though is Mr. Badger, that's on the screen with us today, and Mr. Disney will start attending our board meetings in person. And what I've got grant money for them to do, which dovetails into my next thing, is our repurpose grant. What they're going to do is a mini compliance review once every other month. We'll have somebody come in and helping me go through files and making sure that everything is well documented. As I've told this board in the past, 2028, I am probably out of here, so I want to leave you in as good a shape as I can. No, in 2028, I'm out of here, if not before. So they're going to help us, and we're going to learn, and they're going to be at our board meetings. And then it will also, we're able to repurpose our grant to keep our $120,000. But after our next board meeting, Larry Disney is going to teach a 2-hour class. Appraiser members, and all of the board members, I highly recommend you to stay if you can. That is Larry's going to do one on the appraisal subcommittee policy statements. We've split the policy statements into 2 classes. Larry's going to teach, and then Dennis is going to do the policy statement 7, which is on enforcement, because it's worthy of its own 2-hour class. But we've got grant money to pay for all of this. Their travel, their some money for while they're an hourly wage while they're here. And so it's going to be, I'm excited about it. I think this is a way for us to move forward and get that excellent.
And we get to see
And you get CE credit. You will get CE credit. Scott wants CE credit. So but I've already cleared that with the subcommittee as well. We're all good.
That's,
You can have CE credit. I'll give it to you.
Does that apply to realtors continuing ed?
You know what? You can stay and then I'll make you a certificate and then we'll take it to Melissa. So that it is worthy to learn a little bit more about your responsibilities on this board. Poor Aaron is out though, because attorneys can't get CE credit for that. The next thing is back in 2016, this is state government at its finest. Back in 2016, the board, we moved our funds from a commercial bank account to a treasury account. We earn a lot more in interest on our treasury account than we were on our commercial bank account. And in my bill, in Act, that first one, Act 949, I asked to combine all three of our appropriations and funds. Well, it turns out that home inspectors and abstractors have our special revenue accounts. But when DF&A helped me move our money to Treasury, we left us as a cash account. Turns out there's state law against combining cash accounts and special revenue. So we can combine it down to two accounts for the next 2 years, but it'll be the next session before I can make our account, the appraiser account, a special revenue so it can be combined with the other two. But I wanted to report that just because I thought it was state government at its finest, that at the 11th hour when we're trying to combine, we find out we can't do that. But it's an easy fix, and it does save us a lot of time because we'll now only have two accounts to deal with, not three. So I'm happy about that. The next thing I wanted to report to you guys, mostly because if it is in the newspaper, I would like for your names to be right next to mine. We have an appraiser who was convicted and negotiated guilty to a felony. The felony was distributing, possessing, or viewing matter depicting sexually explicit conduct involving a child. It was a Class C felony and there were 2 counts. He pled guilty to the one code section, is that the right word, Aaron? Code section that is not a disqualifying factor. So I can't take his license away. And I just wanted y'all to know that. You are now informed and it will be memorialized in the minutes, but we were all gonna.
Can you say who it is?
No, I am not saying who
So
it is.
that person in prison.
Yes, for 10 years. And that's
What subsection did he plead guilty to? Is there like a run out of the definition of it? Just out of curiosity.
he pled guilty to code section 527-602A. 602, which is 603 and 605 are disqualifying factors. 602 is not.
He was really originally charged with a disqualifying offense. They put it down to one that was not.
But for our purposes, he's in jail, so he's not doing reviews or actively appraising in any way.
I suspect he'll never appraise again, but that's beside the point.
It's gonna get way behind on the CE.
Good point, unless he.
Unless he-
Yeah, so it's safe to say he's not doing reviews from prison or anything like that.
He's not working, and I'm certain his life is not fun, but because we couldn't go ahead and suspend it, I wanted to make the board aware of this.
Well, odds are he won't renew.
Odds are he won't renew, but
But
that's fine. That to me is different. Not renewing, he just becomes inactive. I want you guys to
We
know,
can't actively take it because.
we cannot actively take it away.
But what was his initial charge that he pled down, or can you tell? Or
It was
something?
very similar to what he pled to. It was a different section.
So do we need to think about including what he pled to and was sentenced for and with the things that,
Other disqualified.
yeah, I mean, does that need to be added to the list for the future?
It would have to be added by the legislature.
Well, that would have to happen in 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking, looking ahead, is that something that we want to think about including? There may be others.
Well, and probably not gonna go away.
I mean, it's just a question if
Just out of curiosity, what felonies are allowed? I don't think any of them.
I mean, there's quite a few that are allowable. The ones that have disqualified people are typically the things that deal with trust. So burglaries, assaults, any kind of violent offense, most of them are out, but there are still some that are included. I believe, and I'm going off memory, so I may not be correct, but I believe he was originally charged with solicitation of a minor over the internet, and that was pled down to possession of pornographic material. And for some reason, the solicitation is a disqualifying offense, but possession of the material was not. So I don't know if that had anything to do with his decision to plead down, or the prosecutor's decision to plead it down, if they were even aware that this was a disqualifying offense, but he did plead guilty to an offense that does not disqualify.
so. I know 2 years is 2 years, but is that something that we kind of want to put on the agenda here in 2 years to go after, to say if a person is convicted of that, then, and he's an appraiser, then he's not going to be an appraiser anymore? Is that reasonable?
Yes, you could, I mean, you could address the legislature and ask them to include that offense or any of the other offenses that aren't included in that section.
But his sentence is gonna preclude him from having a license when he gets out, because he's gonna obviously not be able to renew in 2 years because of his CEs, right? So effectively, he's not under our jurisdiction because he's gonna age off before he can renew, and then the renewal process will catch him, right?
Well, what would happen, and this is what Aaron and I talked about, is that let's say in 10 years he gets out, or in 5 years he gets out, and he wants to reinstate. Once you've been inactive with us for more than 12 months, you have to have a background check.
That's where I'm.
This is going to we're gonna catch it on that background check, and there's in our existing statutes, there's something about trustworthiness and different things that we might be able to tweak to make it, to keep him from getting his appraiser's license back, but this is still small town Arkansas. I mean, I think that even if, it's gonna be, I've had to come to myself just to let it go. There's nothing we can do that will address it in 5 years or 10 years or.
If it comes up, but my point is, our current mechanisms essentially have catch it based on the time.
Right.
Well, that's
And
perfect, yeah.
unless for some reason he's able to keep up.
Yeah, that was gonna be my thought was, does he have access? Is he able to take on the classes?
I don't
You
know.
don't know, but if that happens, I mean,
It's unlikely.
People get degrees.
right, I'm worried that he can get paid for it.
Not only will he get them,
Yeah.
we as taxpayers will pay for it.
So,
When you had time.
That falls under the never category.
I had time, yes.
Well, we got 2 years. But I'd like to see a list of allowable felonies that we may want to tweak and make them disqualified.
Okay.
I would imagine if that is going to, whatever we want our board to be able to not allow, it's going to have to be a statewide deal to all boards and agencies. And that's going to be.
It's gonna be an uphill battle.
And that's more than okay with me. I'm just saying it might not be as easy as just.
It won't be.
Yeah.
It's gonna be an uphill battle to add anything to the list of disqualifying factors.
The only thing that hits me personally is home inspectors, appraisers, they are in people's personal homes. There are pictures of your children on the wall. You can Photoshop things. Heaven forbid my son's face ends up somewhere on the internet.
Or your child's at home.
Yes. And so that's, you know, that's the world we live in, unfortunately. These homes are vacant.
I agree. This one's been difficult for me. Okay, and then, I wanted to talk about, well, just FYI renewals. We're in appraiser, in-state appraisers and abstractor renewals, and they seem to be going really well. As Brian mentioned a moment ago, when we were talking about education, in my spare time, I decided to take an online qualifying education appraiser class. I took basic appraisal principles, which has really been funny because I'd forgotten about tenants in common and all these legal terms and contracts and things that I don't use every day, so I don't know what they mean, but it was really, it was fun. I took the class from one of our major providers, and just for funsies, I thought I'll take the exam as well. You know, let's see if I can remember what I was supposed to know. And so I did it here, and we have a couple of little rooms along the side that are little phone rooms where people that sit in a cubicle, if they need to go make a private call, they can go in one of these little rooms. So I got one of those and took my Surface Pro in there. And I had my driver's license, so I could prove who I was. I didn't have my phone, had nothing in there but, you know, me and my little Surface Pro. So the provider had me, they had me log into a Zoom call, or Teams. It might have been Teams rather than Zoom, but it was in that method. I logged in, and they did not check my ID. They did not remain, they told me I could have my phone in there with me if I want, you know, if I needed my, you know, I could have my phone in the room with me, which is clearly not good. And they didn't monitor me while I was taking the test. They had no idea who was taking the test.
Since you do that for fun, next time I need to take the property. And they don't check your ID, there you are.
So I think we have a problem.
Well, once you get your grade back, it's American Society for Americans Rural Appraisers. Really disappointing.
I've had online with them. I had to do everything. I had to show them.
I think you need to call Denver and jerk some knots.
Well, it's been over 3 weeks now, and I still don't have my score back, which is never a good thing, in my opinion. But it was an online exam. How long can it take to grade an online exam? But at any rate, I was disappointed myself, Scott. I mean, I really was. Grant money paid for the class for me to take it. I talked with Sarah and about this as well. What I'd like to do, and I don't need it for CE, I'll have plenty of CE if I can ever get my.
So that's QE, that's not C.
Right. But QE counts for CE.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well, when you pass it, I should.
I still have the 28 hours. I'd like to pass it. I would hope that at this point in my life, I can pass the daggone thing.
It's kind of an ego thing.
It is at this point. But I am gonna have to reach out to not just Deanna that we all know and love, but the guy, and I can't think of his name right now, that's the head of that show.
Yeah.
And have a discussion.
It was just a bad day, and they've already fired this person.
I don't know, but at any rate, I would like the board's permission to take a few more classes just for fun on, you know, random days I have different things to do, because grant money will never happen for that purpose again. Some of the old grant money that the previous grant money, they were letting me use up. But I would like to take some more online education. I'm not as familiar with it because that's not how I got my license. But I think it's worthy of it. So I am asking for the board's permission to use some of our $2.2 million that I do have appropriated for education to take a couple more classes.
I think that would be very good.
Yes.
If for no other reason, to catch problems and issues.
Yeah, quality control.
Audited them,
We
yeah.
definitely got.
That's what it is, it's quality control.
We never known about this, had you not taken it.
Right, I had no idea. I mean, I was prepared. I had my room and everything ready.
You know, to add to that, maybe it would help your staff to, in training them to maybe make them do one of them, so you don't have to bear all the load, because you have a tendency to do that, so.
She has a clue.
You want to, you want
I
to
will not report my grade.
take a class?
To help bring your staff along, that maybe you could farm some out to them, that maybe.
And that's a great idea. I do think that we need to, but I do think back in the day, when I first came to work with the board, we did this a lot. We attended USPAP classes. We did different things just to monitor what was being taught. And it was actually kind of fun. You got out of the office for a day because they were classroom classes back then. But this online education has worried me for years. And I think it's part of what we talked about at the last board meeting where our failure rate is so high. I've told Susie, every day I was taking this class because you're limited to the number, how long you got to take it. That I feel bad for somebody new coming in and having to take those classes because that's a lot of stuff to remember in a short amount of time. I'm grateful I was able to do mine in an online.
It's a very different method of learning, and there's a steep learning curve, but once some of the younger people I've noticed that they can blow through those things in no time and not know anything. And old folks like me, that it's hard to learn that way because you're used to hearing somebody tell it to you. And
making notes and
it's easy to game it for some segments of the population.
Listen to the discussions.
Yeah.
When you're there. Online, they'll have some discussions, but a lot of times it seems like one person is really just dominating it all.
Well, those the younger ones typically that do a lot of online stuff, they can blow through a 4-year college degree in a year because they understand that process and know how to game it. So I think that's a great idea to help the quality of our education.
So, I'm entertaining, you made a motion to accept.
Yes.
And I'll second. Do we need to word that specifically, allow you to use some of the grant money to?
Not grant money, for appraisal board.
Oh, appraisal board money, okay. Allow you to use some of the appraisal board money to take some online classes. It's the audit for us. Motion, Scott seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
And as kind of an add-on to that, personally, I have to recertify with the RWA to amend my certification. It's a 5-year certification. So by the end of this year, I've got to have 40 more hours to pick that certification up for the next 5 years. So I talked to the person, this is right after Diana talked to me about her deal with our managers. And so they give you an option. You can take a certain class a certain way and take the exam, or you can do it another way and not be subject to the exam. So I called and I said, okay, tell me how you do this. What do you do? And it was kind of nebulous. It's like, well, you take the exam from us. And I said, so do you proctor it? Do I go to Pearson View? How do you do? Oh no, it's all through us. So I think that one of the things that we might do as a board is, as we are taking, if we take online work, and I certainly will for the RWA, because we just don't have the classes here, and they're out of California, and the place to go, the closest place to go is Texas to get some of these classes, would be to really scrutinize this exam process. And if we find it, like Diana did, to be something that's not particularly monitored or compliant, then we need to talk about it as a board and raise the questions with these groups about it. I know the Appraisal Institute sends everybody to Pearson View. And if you haven't been to Pearson View, that's pretty intimidating. You've got whiteboard and in a cubicle, and your calculator is checked before you come in. I mean, it's really different from sitting in a desk and writing it all out in paper on a pencil. So, and we're gonna see more and more of this, lots of this, as people take advantage of being able to do this from their home or from their office. So I just like to say, let's, if we do it and we're not happy about it, let's report it and talk about it as a board. We may think it's pretty, you know, they may be fine, but certainly we've taken enough places to know when things are okay.
I think we're charged to do that.
Absolutely, that's part of best practice for us.
That's all of my report.
Okay. So we need to ratify the director's report.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor? We need to go back to the staff reports. I consulted my lawyer, and we need to ratify the investigator reports. So move. Second, all in favor? That's something to do, right? Any old business that we have?
Have no old business.
Our next board meeting will be July 18th at 10 a.m. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just a question, now, at that meeting, we are gonna do 2 hours of
Yes.
class, and then be after our. meeting.
What we're gonna do is we're gonna have our board meeting like we normally do, and we're gonna have a lovely lunch. And then we're going to Larry, and then and Dennis is gonna try to come as well. But so we'll start it as soon as we can after we finish eating a quick lunch. And then, everybody will get on the road home. But
So will we have the possibility of some extra upgrade reports or anything like that day?
if we have anything, we're probably gonna ask that people get here. Brian and I talked about this, about having them, if we just have a few, because this time of year we don't have a lot, we might have them come in at 9 o'clock. So, you know, if I can get, 2 groups of 3 going, or 3 groups of 2, that's what I need. 3 groups of 2, everybody doing a report. We are using grant money to have all of the upgrade reports reviewed by either Dennis or Larry. So we've got a streamlined process there as well. I'm excited about the use of our money, our grant money.
Thank you.
We adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? We are adjourned.
Thank you, well done.
Recording immediately.
Here it is. Here's another one. So, thank you very much.